Hi, this is your host Swapnil Bhartiya, and we are back with our yearly prediction video series. And today we have with us Margaret Hoagland, VP of Global Sales and Marketing at SIOS Technology. Margaret, it's good to have you back on the show.
Thank you, Swap. It's good to be here.
It's my pleasure. Let's do a quick introduction. Of course, we cover SIOS on a regular basis, but from the perspective of this series, how do you describe SIOS and what problem you solve heading into 2026?
So SIOS makes high availability software. So if you have a critical application like Microsoft SQL Server or SAP or HANA or even your own homegrown application, you run it on a particular server. Server node could be in the cloud, could be on premises, could be a virtual environment. We will monitor the entire environment. If there's a problem detected, we will move the operation of that application or database to a secondary server, and we will automatically bring that back online. So the end users experience little to no downtime.
Before we ask you to share all of your predictions, I would just ask you if you had to choose one major shift or headline for 2026 in your industry, what would that be and why?
We see that observability is becoming essential for IT. The cloud hypervisors and the virtualization kind of separates the IT admins from the information that they need to know the health of the application, to troubleshoot problems, to fine tune and optimize those application environments. And so we think that there is a much bigger need for observability overall in the IT infrastructure.
Now let's hear your top 3 to 5 predictions, and we should also focus on what is this prediction, why it matters for enterprises, who it impacts developers, platform teams, security leadership, etc., and how organizations should prepare. So let's hear your predictions for this year.
So we think that observability will become essential for complex IT environments. We see that companies are adopting much more complicated IT infrastructures. So they may have a combination of cloud, on-premises, virtual environments. And for the IT admins who may not be as knowledgeable about that infrastructure, this observability is becoming critical. We also see that hybrid and multi-cloud strategies are growing in momentum. So we're one of the few companies that can allow you to fail over from one cloud to another. There was an outage earlier this year that really made everyone sit forward and say, is putting everything in one cloud sufficient, or do I need a second cloud to fail over to? Companies are also using individual clouds for specific applications. And so they may have different applications in different clouds, again, adding complexity to their environments, but gaining some IT efficiencies. The third thing is we see that the silos of IT are starting to blend together, and one in particular is between cybersecurity and high availability. They've traditionally been kept quite separate, but because of the ability of a high availability environment to allow companies to test and apply patches and to ensure the security of their applications in a very efficient manner with nearly zero downtime, HA is really becoming a critical part of a cybersecurity strategy.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing those predictions with us. Now, what challenges do you see enterprises will face in 2026?
So in 2026, as companies are facing a lot of change very quickly, AI is driving some of that change. Just the nature of the market is driving rapid change. And one way companies are reacting to that is by separating the roles of their IT teams so that IT architects come in and they design a new system or a migration or an expansion to their critical application. They then make sure that it works properly and turn the keys over to an IT admin for the day-to-day operation. That's very efficient use of everybody's time until there's a failover. And if the failover happens, the IT team needs to troubleshoot and find out what happened on that primary server and why, and what is the next step. And that's where this observability comes in, and the IT admins are typically not well equipped to solve that problem. And so we see that as a challenge that will emerge much more frequently in the next year. And the drive to HA environments that can aid the IT admin and really understand how they need to work with the clustering environment and support the application operation health. That's really where the trend is going and where we are focusing.
And as the whole B2B landscape is changing, a lot of technologies are emerging, challenges, as you mentioned, which also create new opportunities. What major opportunities will enterprises have in 2026?
Well, they have the opportunity to, again, implement this more efficient use of everybody's time, but also to make sure that their applications are up and running, these critical applications. They can change their environment more flexibly because they've got their applications are well protected. They also have more choice. They can confidently run an SAP system, for example, in the cloud of their choice or on premises in the environment of their choice without worry that there'll be a downtime issue. That's a freeing of the design capabilities of the IT architects.
And can you talk about what broader trends will define your industry in 2026?
Well, we see this trend in IT security where companies are looking for a way to apply patches more effectively, to test them. And they've started to adopt high availability clustering for the availability of the application, but more so because they can test that new patch or update offline in a very realistic environment. They can fail over, they can basically do a rolling upgrade. That's a surprisingly new use of an old technique and an existing technology that's just in the right, it's filling that gap beautifully. And so for our industry, refining that capability and being able to support companies that are doing that is also an area that we see growth in and a need that we can fill very easily. The other one is that with this movement to more complex IT infrastructure and that level of complexity, when you have a critical application, you don't want to mess around with it. And so you need a high availability vendor that knows what they're doing. Right. So we're specialists in high availability. We can talk to customers. We see customers come to us all the time and say, will this work? How about that? What about this failover scenario? Is this a good idea or a bad idea? And as they're considering like cloud failovers and some of these more unusual configurations, they look to us for our advice on how that will affect the availability of their critical application.
What should CIOs, CTOs, CISOs, platform teams, or even architects start doing, start looking at now to be ready for 2026? Because as you rightly mentioned, we saw a lot of downtime. The whole world came to its knees because there was a big outage there, so that they don't run into these issues.
What they need to do is really understand the actual day in the life of an IT admin. Often they push the work to them in a way that's not really acknowledging the level of complexity that they're being asked to take on, the impact of even a few minutes of downtime for their organization. They tend to spend time thinking about just the costs of the licensing, for example, rather than the overall total cost of ownership. They also need to consider the support team that is behind the HA environment that they're working in. Are their team going to call in to a support team looking for answers to why their failover happened or why their application is down, and simply get a junior person trying to say that the application is fine? Or are they going to get somebody that's been doing high availability and specializing in it for many years and really working to bring them to a place where they have a very healthy and reliable application environment?
If we look at these predictions, challenges, opportunities, and trends, what will SIOS prioritize in 2026?
As an example, SIOS just launched the latest version of our flagship product, LifeKeeper, that has a management console with a consistent use experience for both Windows and Linux, because IT teams that are now in these complex environments don't want to be trained, and it's expensive to retrain for different operating systems. We are really taking a hard look at how IT admins in particular are interacting with our product, with high availability environments, with the expectations put on them to keep an application up and running. And we are really focusing on ways that we can make that experience more effective, more efficient, and more reliable for them and for the application environment itself.
Margaret, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your predictions for 2026. And I look forward to chatting with you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Swap. It's a pleasure to be here.